Thrilled you're here with us today because, well, we're tackling a subject that hits pretty incredibly close to home for a lot of us. Have you ever felt like the stock market is just completely rigged against you? Like you're trapped in this vicious cycle of consistent trading losses no matter how hard you study? If you're sitting there nodding your head right now, I want you to know, I completely get that pain. It's exhausting, it's frustrating, and honestly, it drains not just your wallet, but your mental energy. So today, we're going to break down some seriously fascinating insights from a trader who lived in that exact personal hell for a decade. A full decade. And we're going to see exactly how they finally broke out of it. All right, let's dive right in.
Why do others make 100% while you instantly lose 20%? I mean, talk about the ultimate agony of the retail investor, right? You're watching the exact same stock, trading on the exact same market at what feels like the exact same time as everybody else. You're hearing people celebrating massive wins, doubling their money, laughing all the way to the bank. So you finally take the plunge, you make your move, you buy in, and almost instantaneously, bam, you're down 20%, instantly trapped in the red. How is it even possible that the exact same asset behaves so wildly differently for you versus the big market winners?
Well, this brings us to a really heavy number, 10. We're talking about a full decade here. The source material we're exploring today actually centers around a trader who spent 10 agonizing years on a massive losing streak. And here's the real kicker, they weren't just gambling blindly. No way. For 10 whole years, they were spending their hard-earned money and their precious time trying to learn incredibly complex fundamental analysis. They were poring over dense financial reports, trying to master this chaotic web of technical indicators, moving averages, and super advanced formulas. They were trying to do the complex math. But guess what? None of it worked. They were still losing.
Section 1. The Retail Investor's Flaw. The Psychology of Losing.
So if all those advanced tools and countless hours of studying financial reports weren't saving this trader, the problem obviously had to be deeper. The core issue here isn't just bad luck. It's not like the market gods singled you out for punishment. The root cause is actually a fundamentally flawed, deeply ingrained psychological mindset. Take the average retail investor. Their defining trait? Impatience. They're driven almost entirely by FOMO, the fear of missing out. The absolute second they see a stock surging, when it's plastered all over the news and everyone is talking about it, they panic, they rush in, and they chase that skyrocketing price. Now flip that and look at the pros, or the market makers. They're patient. They wait for stability. They buy the ignored lows. The brutal, honest reality of this dynamic is that retail investors rush in to buy at the absolute mountain peak, literally the highest possible price, precisely when the pros are cashing out, taking their profits, and leaving the retail crowd completely trapped holding the bag. So how do we actually fix this? Well, the solution isn't more complex math. It's a return to the absolute basics. I kind of like to think of this as the rule of one. After 10 years of drowning in technical noise, the realization the trader had was profound. You do not need 100 different indicators flashing on your screen. In fact, that exhausting complexity is exactly what's distracting you from the truth. The real turnaround comes from the sheer relief of stripping everything away and embracing one simple, undeniable, basic visual trend. Something everyone can see, but almost everyone ignores.
Section 2. The Phase 1 Secret. Finding Treasure in the Valley.
Okay, we're shifting gears now from the painful mistakes of the past to a deeply optimistic, practical strategy that kind of changes everything. Instead of complex math, we just need to master the natural life cycle of a stock's price. So, step 1 is the high peak crash. This is where the hype dies, the pros sell, and the stock begins to tumble. Step 2 is the steep fall. The price plummets, panic sets in, and retail investors who bought at the peak are basically bleeding money. But step 3, this is where you need to focus absolutely all your attention. Phase 1, bottom consolidation. This right here is the valley. After the massive drop, the stock finally stops falling and just levels out.
Now, Phase 1 consolidation is precisely defined as a long period of low volume and minimal price fluctuation, where a stock appears dead but has actually reached its fair market price. To the average retail investor who's out there looking for an adrenaline rush, this stock appears completely dead, just totally lifeless. Nobody's talking about it, it's definitely not trending on social media, and it barely moves from day to day. But the absolutely crucial point here is that this quote-unquote dead period actually means the market has finally digested all that panic and has assigned the stock its true fair market price. While the crowd completely ignores this boring valley, this is exactly where the true hidden treasure lies. And that brings us to a really specific trigger point, the rule of 3. Once a stock crashes and enters that flat, boring, completely lifeless valley of Phase 1, you don't just jump in and buy it on day 1. No, you wait. Once that stock maintains this fair, consolidated price for at least 3 months, boom, that is the exact moment it must immediately go onto your watch list. 3 full months of low volume, flatline stability, that's what proves that the selling pressure is truly finally exhausted.
Section 3.
The power of patience, the ultimate pivot.
Now listen, recognizing the chart is really only half the battle. You can have a watch list absolutely packed with stocks that have been flat for 3 months, but if you don't change your internal behavior, the whole strategy will completely fall apart. This behavioral pivot is the critical change that actually makes this technical strategy work, and the pivot requires 3 simple rules. Buy when it's cheap, buy when it's stable, and buy when everyone else is ignoring it. Just think about how radically different this is from that retail mindset we discussed earlier. The old habit was chasing hype, buying when things were incredibly expensive, wildly unstable, and when everyone in the whole world was talking about it. This new strategy demands that you quietly accumulate your shares in total silence when absolutely nobody else cares.
But to do that, you need the ultimate secret weapon, patience. You really have to understand that this is super easy to say, but man, it is the hardest thing in the world to actually do. When you buy a stock in phase 1 consolidation, it might not move tomorrow. Actually, scratch that. It probably won't move next week either. You must have the fierce, unshakable discipline to endure the boring phase. You have to be willing to sit in that valley confident in the fair market price and just wait. Patience is literally the single thing that separates the people who lose for 10 straight years from the people who finally turn it all around.
Time will prove that simple methods work. Look, your money, the money of the everyday retail investor, is hard-earned. It represents your blood, sweat, and tears. It deserves to be protected by steadfast discipline, not gambled away on chaotic, overly complex trading indicators that, let's be honest, you barely even understand. Simplicity truly is the ultimate sophistication here. By returning to the most basic, observable chart patterns and combining it with the immense discipline of time, you're allowing the market to eventually prove you right.
So, I have to ask, are you ready to stop chasing the dangerous peaks and start waiting patiently in the valley? Every single time you open your trading account, you have a choice. You can let FOMO push you back up that mountain toward a 20% instant loss, or you can take a deep breath, look for those quiet, boring consolidations, and let patience do the heavy lifting for you. I really hope this explainer has empowered you to abandon those old, anxious habits and finally embrace a calm, strategic approach. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep observing, and above all else, stay patient.